Okay, so I'm going to go over a workflow that I do often. We're not going to make anything using today. Instead, I'm kind of just going to run you through how we do it. So I guess I'll just start off with making a little object. Let's go for something that has some kind of detail, but not enough to time consuming. So let's just actually make a crate. Crates are pretty easy. So I go ahead and I make something, crate, to add some depth to it. 10% fold. Ahead and extrude. Some thickness, and then our offset down. It's probably alright. So we'll make a pot. That's what we'll make. It's kind of the direction we go. I'd like to add a little bit of detail down here. Let's see. Do we want the pot to go in? It's probably. Let's do edge bevel. Oh yeah, it's perfect. Let's see. What happens if we just bevel all of it? Let's go back to this bevel. Let's just bevel the. Yeah, that'll do. So that gives us a little object to work with. Not very big, not very amazing, but I want to add some tertiary details to the side. So I go to selection, put it right on the desktop. We have there. So we name this pot. Alright, so now that we've created something in Maya or Blender or whatever, 3D program using Max, it doesn't make a difference really. The settings are generally the same thing, so we model it out. Just for the sake of time, an automatic Let's take a look at how some serviceable we can work with that. So we're going to export the selection, import the pot again, so that way we have our UV data. And then we're going to move on to the ZBrush. And my ZBrush will probably look very different from all of yours. Custom layout. So we're going to go ahead and import our pot. We don't care about cameras, we don't care about polygons, nothing. We just want the pot itself. That's not a big deal. Skip that there. Go to draw mode. This will be our high poly. Actually, no. This will be our low poly. This will be not low poly. Duplicate. Actually, I'd like to just. This will be star pot. Ahead and give her some subdivisions, but first we want to go to geometry. Turn off smoothing because I don't like it to smooth. Give it like, let's see, it's probably good for subdivisions. Time, give it one. That's what we want. And so now we want to add a little bit of something on here, and I don't remember if I have the. I do. Excellent. So So I do have the brushes that I need. So I'll go ahead and add some more stylized details onto the pot. Go ahead and shape this up. Small. We don't want our pot to be perfect, but we also don't want it to be destroyed, essentially. Not looking to make this a destroyed pot, we're just essentially making some accents on the side of it. Subdivision here. You might not see the details, but they are there. Oh, wow, that's a lot. Corners, they're just fine, so we got some of that on there. I would like to add, let's see, noise or detail. Let me see what noise looks like. Ooh, a lot. So let's do detail. Let's do some detailing. I think we can work with that. Just for sake of randomness, add one there and one on the bottom. Nobody should see the bottom, but just in case they do. I'll put some dirt or something on the side of this. Temper that there. That gives us some depth to our pot, so now it kind of looks more like a pot. So now what we're going to do is what I initially was going to do in the first place, and so we're going to delete this one. Back, I don't know. I'll rename this to pot high poly, right? Do is duplicate this one, and it doesn't matter which one I pick out of this as long as I have one that is pot low poly. And my method is a little bit different than most people's, I guess. To go to geometry, ZRemesher. I'll keep my target count as 1. I'll hit ZRemesher quickly. And while we let that work, so now what we've done is we've created a version of our high poly that is significantly less as far as that. And so now I know that we did our UVs in Maya initially, so we will bring this stuff back into Maya and do the same thing now that we have done that. And you're wondering why, and the reason why I wanted to show you that workflow is because when you're in when you're in ZBrush, the UVs from Maya can actually translate into an artistic tool. You can actually use the UV set to do certain things with the tools, so I always bring it from Maya into ZBrush and then ZBrush back into Maya and down stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and go to zip export, do selected, do bin, S normals up. I don't need anything else on this. Suggested to change this right here into a compatible version. So I found that FBX 2020 works on everything up until 2025 or whatever this version is. Works just fine. Fortunately, I have an older version of ZBrush. I kind of stopped purchasing their license because I use all the tools in here. None of the new tools have really captivate me enough to spend that kind of money on a version. So we're going to go pot LP, remain with our original pot. So we're going to export that. And so this one we're going to do the same thing, export, and you see it just gives the name of the layers, so it's a good thing to layers. So pot HP will be our high poly. So now that that is complete, what we're going to do, it's writing our data here for us. I forgot it's going to do this first. But after it writes our data, we're going to go back to sometimes this takes a while. It depends on how big your model is. But we can go back to Maya for now. And we'll go ahead and rename this pot. This is our original pot, right? So it's best to freeze, delete, and reset transformations. That's these three buttons here. And then I like to just slide it off to the side. And then I'm going to import. And I'm going to import my low poly first. So you can see my low poly. And I like to, again, set transformation, center, pivot, and delete by history. And then I'm going to also import my high poly, which will take a lot longer to import because it's much, much more dense. There's more polygons to it, tries to it. See, we went from like a couple thousand to 2 actually. And then it gets a little laggy, but as you can see, we have our 3 iterations of pot. One with our details, which is not game ready because you would never put this in game. Our remeshed version, our ZRemesher, which is also not terribly great, but it will very much so go into a game. And then you have our clean original, right? So that's great. Let's just reset our translation on this. And you can see they match up perfectly. And the reason why I did that instead of just using this as my bake mesh, essentially, or my low poly version, is because the ZBrush program has changed our mesh significantly enough in order to not be this anymore. So if we zero this out, you can see we have a lot of overhang, stuff like that. And in order for that high poly to be baked on our original mesh, we would have to modify our original mesh to make it work better. So we just kind of move it off to the side. We used that to create our general shape, and I like that because it helps with workflow. So for my low poly, not going to do anything fancy because I don't really have time to spend on that, but I did a quick automatic unwrap. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, we got some oddball little guys here. That's not an issue for what I'm showing you. Essentially, you would want to connect these to connect the purpose of this video and speed. I am not going to do that. So what we're going to do now seems counterintuitive and very unproductive, but this is the easiest way I've found these almost perfectly with very little work afterwards. So select your pot low poly. You're going to export selection. Select lot poly. Export. Do that. Select your high poly. Selection. High poly. Thing. This will take quite a bit longer. Just give it a minute. Okay. So now, then, once we're done with that, we can move to Substance Painter. So in Substance Painter, to File New, 2048, or because there's no Unreal Engine 5 in this version. I don't know exactly. Let's see. 9.0. So 9.0, there is no version. So what we're going to do is open up our pot LP for low poly. Have 2048, DirectX or OpenGL, whatever you prefer. I just keep it at DirectX. We don't really care about cameras. We don't care. We definitely don't want this to be auto unwrapped because we already unwrapped it in Maya, so we should use the unwrap in Maya. This does work, and it does work very poorly, in my opinion. Go ahead and open up our low poly. Nice and smooth, just as we expected it. So I always delete the layer first, that way I can have a fresh thing to work with. Here. Go ahead and scroll down in our texture set settings. Find Bake Mesh Maps. And our document size was 2048, so we're going to leave this output size as 2048. The dilation width, you can bump it up to 64 if you want to. It doesn't really difference there for what. And then low poly as high poly mesh, you can use this if you know what to do with it. But our high definition meshes, we're going to go ahead and click this file button and our high poly pot. See, it will reflect into our port here. We get a couple errors because it's not triangulated. It's not a very simple ball. What you don't want is red. So if you pan around your model and you see red, red is where it's going to have baking issues. As you can see, because of the way that I did workflow here, red. So then I like to bake texture set. See, it will start baking our details in. This takes a while. It'll do curvature, matte, position, whatever. This is very dependent on your computer. Depending on what kind of computer you have, result may be. And just like that, we have a pot that's very serviceable. You'll notice there's some small artifacting here on the corners and underneath the edges. That's a simple fix. You can just go back into Maya and adjust your model accordingly. Pull those down a little bit because those are a little too high, so if you pull them down a little bit, they will match perfectly. And also you could go to your mesh maps and increase your cage distance. That will fix that too. But for the sake of this video, get anyone has to be. So, baked our mesh. Those are very minor details to me. Inside looks great. There's a couple small, it's like here. So, go ahead and 3DEX on YouTube. I generally highly recommend watching his. He has great content. So we're just going to use his smart material that he has here. And already off the bat, that looks pretty good. But you can add his extra curvature, which really brings out the details even more. You can make it metal if you'd like. Change your base colors right in here. All sorts of good settings. Kind of want to go for that like light terracotta feel. And so that's a highly serviceable model at the moment. Right? Highly, highly serviceable. So, next step that I have, start on get that running in the background while I show you the rest of this. So we want to go to File up here and Export Textures, and make sure your global setting here is on pot. That's what your output will look like, so you'll use 3. We're going to go for our global settings though, and select Unreal Engine 4 Packed, which it should already be selected. TGA, or Targa, has better resolution depth. I would recommend using that, but PNG works just fine. For this case of the video, I'm going to use PNG, add a textures folder to my pot folder, export. And what it does is gives us a base color, emissive, ORM, roughness, metallic. But you can see we didn't have any emissive, so it only output 3 maps for us, or 3 files for us. Base color, some metallic, just great. So we're going to go in here, we're going to do a third person scene, name it sandbox. To our sandbox. If I would have thought ahead, I would have had Unreal loaded already, but it's good that you can see this. Okay, it's our sandbox. My cursor is vanished. It's going to be so content drawer. I'm going to create a folder. Pot. Open that up, and then there's a couple ways to import. You can find the folder, drag drop everything, or import this little button right here. Personally, I drag and drop, but for the sake of the video, we'll do the. So we want our low poly pot, and this should be okay. The pot's probably going to be pretty small. It has created a material for us. We will go ahead and use that material for this. And then import game pot, go to our textures, all 3 textures, import all 3 of those. We're going to go ahead and open our material. I like to dock the material here, and we're going to just delete the base color. For our material, you're going to leave it surface opaque, default it. Everything in here should be fine. Just a quick. And we're going to drag these in. So that's our base color, and you know that by base color. Our normal, that by the, and occlusion, roughness, metallic. So base color, we want all of the channels. So we want RGB to our base color. I'll save it as we go, see what it does. So our pot now has RGB on it. So we can see that we have our color. We don't have so we're going to go ahead and go back to our material. We're going to put our normal in. Save that. Show you what that looks like. So now our normal, now we have depth. Now our depth is there. Right? Great. So then this is the weird one. So occlusion, roughness, metallic. In that order, what it means is R, G, and B. So occlusion is red, roughness, green, and metallic is blue, right? Occlusion, roughness, metallic. Think of it as RG. So occlusion, obviously. Roughness, obviously roughness. Metallic, this means metallic. We don't have any metallic properties to our model, so if we undo this, you're never going to see a change, but just because we have the pin, we'll hook it up. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and now we have a pot that is reflected on the material, or on the world. You can see we have roughness pattern, and our depth is there, our details are there, and it looks pretty good. And now from here, you could essentially dirt. So we could this pot dirt. It's very easy. And so what we'll do is just keeping our high poly, we'll hide that. We got our low poly, so we'll keep our low poly. We can just simply make a cube, get her scaled up to where we want it to be. Up. Can go to actually, you know what? Let's try. Since this is just going to be seen from the top, we'll just use a simple. Then what I like to do is we don't need it fancy, we just need a single individual plane. It can be our dirt. If you would like to make dirt that has any kind of depth, you can just amp these up a little bit, right? And then we can actually just go with 10. That'll work. I like to just grab this and do like a soft selection, right? You can just kind of dirt up to where we think dirt should be. Give it a shape here. Because dirt's not exactly uniform, right? Somebody poured a pot, they didn't care too much. Okay, that looks pretty decent for dirt, I'd say. So we're going to turn our mode off there. We will give this a automatic assignment because I am lazy. So, we will export that selection, and now here we can say dirt, and it's low poly-ish. And then here we just open up our thing, dirt low poly. This card changes because I don't care to save it, and let's find something that kind of looks like dirt. Let's just search dirt. Do I have anything? Let's bake our texture maps. This one doesn't have terribly high res, so I'm just going to use 1024. Yeah, that resembles some dirt, right? All right. And so now here, I'll add a fill layer, and let's give it a dirt. Yeah, that should probably work decent for us. Kind of low. So a little. That should work for a example dirt. So go ahead and do the same thing that we did before. Pot. Dirt textures. Just drop those in there. Just like so. Go right back to Unreal. Or our dirt poly. And this should be a direct match for this pot. And so say we want to get this exactly on, we can right click on here, copy, dirt, and we can paste it. Put it right on top of what our thing is because we designed them to be together. So with our material, we just use the standard surface material, so we can this up and go ahead and textures out. This is our base color. This is our roughness, metallic. See, dirt in our pot. It's that simple. Obviously, the dirt doesn't really match the pot itself, but it's pretty straightforward. It's very easy, and then go ahead and from there and make foliage or whatever you make in your pot, and you'll have a completed pot to assets. Another little deal that you can do here is you can create a blueprint class of actor, be planter, and I can go ahead and here a static mesh. You can do instant static mesh too, but just for simplicity, we're just going to use static mesh. Go ahead and copy that and paste it. So then dirt pot here and select pot. In here, select dirt. Will already be textured for us because we already did that in the previous step. So then you go save it. drop down here, you can find your glass, and now we can make multiples of that. And we can copy them, how many ever pots we want. Alright, thank you for watching that. That is my workflow of putting things into Unreal Engine.